morning's proceedings. Want to welcome those of you who are joining us online via those that are streaming on your phones and making your way to the Jamaica Pegasus. It is still a lovely day and another exciting morning where today the focus will be on successful businesses that has utilized science at the core of their business. So welcome one and all as we close out SRC's conference with another insightful, riveting conversation looking at science, technology, and innovation at the core of business and boosting business success.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic. I know it's pretty early, so I don't want any dedicated people in the conference room. It is a pleasure for us to be here this morning. I want to welcome members of our panel or panelists, Dr. Levy, Jamaica Borders Group, Professor Wayne McLaughlin, University of the West Indies, Ms. Leke Bellamy, Jaipur, and we have the CEO of Technological Solutions, Dr. Andre Garden, who should be joining us shortly. Andre, and time here, ready can join us on the podium. So we'll be looking on some critical issues, some critical areas today in terms of how science, technology, and innovation support the core of businesses to make them more resilient and successful. So we ask you to just open up your minds, have your questions, jot them down, and we shall be having a very interactive session. For those who don't know me, I am Cliff Riley, the coordinator of value addition at the International Trade Center based in Geneva, and also the operator of a local science-based business known as Research and Product Development Solutions. We want to welcome you this morning and also want to congratulate Dr. Watson and the SRC team for a fantastic conference. It's very, very encouraging, seeing SRC continue this thrust of ensuring that there are scientific solutions that can drive and support not just our economical development, but also the social development required within our space. At this particular point, ladies and gentlemen, a conference won't be a conference without any financial support or support from other institutions. As you'll realize, the session is sponsored by CARMED, and we'd like to invite our CARMED representative to join us on the podium to give us a brief remarks, and then we'll move into the discussions. Dr. Gordon, please, you can join us.
Yes, I'm quite little. Thank you so much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having us here this morning. We're pleased to be a sponsor. CARIMED is also always very much in support of science and technology and development, and pharmaceuticals are very much a part of science and development, and we support the SRC in their dealings and everything that they do to support Jamaica. So this morning I just wanted to give a brief reminder about one of our products, Allegra. I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with it. It is an OTC brand. It is something that you can go to the pharmacy and pick up. So let's begin. So Allegra, it is an antihistamine. And what are antihistamines? Basically, when a person is allergic to a particular substance, such as food, or things like dust, or anything that causes some kind of unusual reaction in the body, the immune system basically starts a series of reactions that prompts, I'm sorry, the clicker doesn't seem to be working. The side, okay. I got it, thank you so much. Right, so it prompts the body's cells to release something called histamine and other chemicals into the blood. So the histamine basically acts on a person's eyes and their lungs or skin, and it causes what we call allergy symptoms. So what we use is antihistamine medications that basically counteracts the histamine and helps to fight the symptoms caused by this allergic reaction. So The symptoms basically include watery eyes, rhinorrhea, or what we call runny nose, sneezing, that itchy throat or palate, that little weird noise that you sometimes make when, your throat is scratching you. And then we have something called urticaria, which is basically hives or those red itchy bumps on the skin. So you're going to use a product like Allegra to help to counteract those symptoms. So we have different presentations of Allegra. We have the 120 presentation, we have the 180, and we also have one that's called Allegra D. So the Allegra D is more geared towards the congestion, nasal congestion. The 120 is more geared for regular allergic symptoms like your runny eyes and runny nose, and the 180 is more geared towards your skin reactions. So, the excellent thing about Allegra is that it gives you very powerful relief without a prescription. So, as I mentioned, hives, the rash and itching that's caused by things like dengue, relief from common cold symptoms, and believe me, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the flu season, so you will see a lot of those reactions coming on right now. Extended coughing, that hacking, annoying cough that's sometimes caused by sinus drainage. Allegra can help with that. And as I mentioned, severe sinusitis. So why choose Allegra as opposed to any other thing that is on the market? First of all, it is safe for elderly patients, right? 120 and the 180 milligram are available without a prescription, so please feel free to go to your pharmacy and ask for it by name. It gives quick and powerful relief within 1 hour, multi-symptom treatment, so it treats all the symptoms of allergic rhinitis, non-drowsy relief, so guess what, you can take it and still go to work, you can still function while at work. 1 tablet daily dosing, so it's just 1 tablet to give you that excellent powerful relief, and it works for the entire day. We also have another presentation that actually comes as a liquid, and it's excellent for our children. So a lot of the antihistamines on the market actually start at age 2. Ours actually starts at 6 months old, and it tastes good. Kids don't really like the medication thing. So when you give them this, they will love it and they won't have a problem taking it. So some of the advantages of the Allegra suspension, as I mentioned, starts at 6 months old. It tastes really good and is the biggest antihistamine on the market, 150 mils. The elderly patients, sometimes they can't manage to, take a lot of tablets. So there's an option to give them the liquid as well. And it is very, very easy to administer as it comes with a little syringe in the box. So these are all the presentations of Allegra that we have available in the pharmacies. As I mentioned, most of them are over the counter. You can feel free to go and ask your pharmacist for Allegra. How do you use it? As I mentioned, the hives, the itching, food reactions, and of course, other kind of skin conditions and allergic rhinitis. Free yourselves from allergy symptoms with Allegra. Thank you so, so much for having us today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Again, ladies and gentlemen, can we give Karen Med a round of applause? Thank you. Several little housekeeping issues I might just want to highlight before we move into the formal discussions. One, we just want to remind our online participants that they can post their questions and we will take those as we go through the session. And also we ask persons to ensure they go through the evaluation, that information available on the SRC channel. And for those who have not done as yet, we ask you to also download the conference program on the SRC conference website, srcconference.com. What we'll do now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have some discussions. And I think this is where we pose quite a bit of the issues, looking at some of the successes as well as opportunities that exist for science, technology, and innovation to play a more meaningful role in transforming businesses. And in such way of transforming businesses, how to improve our efficiency as a country, how to drive and support innovation, high throughput exports, as well as coming up with solutions to address some of our local challenges and issues. We have a very distinguished panel of experts on our podium today, on the platform today, who will be bringing you through some of the successes that they have seen over the years, some of the innovations they have taken on through their companies, as well as some of the challenges that they have faced. Because we're in an era where we're encouraging entrepreneurship. We're encouraging persons to use their knowledge, the skill sets, and the expertise they have to transform business, create employment, and to generate wealth. And I'm sure you may agree that creating wealth and expanding employment won't necessarily come from formal employment, but more involvement in entrepreneurial type activities, which we hope will be high throughput, innovative approaches. Today, our four presenters, Dr. Robert Levy, OJ, is the chairman of Jamaica Boilers Group Limited, and I indicated to me not to do a long introduction. It was a very short introduction, so I'll stop there. I don't want him to ban me from let me not go any further. Professor Wayne McLaughlin, he is a professor in molecular biology from the University of the West Indies, Mona, and I'm sure a lot of us in this room have been taught by Professor McLaughlin in terms of biotechnology, biochemistry, as well as molecular biology, and he is a stalwart in terms of our operations here in Jamaica. He has launched, established quite a number of companies. I'm sure we have heard about Carigen as well as Caritox, and I know Prof. Mac has other ideas in terms of other businesses, other solutions that can be instituted within the Jamaican space. Sorry. Our Rose Among the Thorn, Lily Claire Bellamy, she's the executive director of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, one of the institutions that has been at the forefront in supporting innovation in the Jamaican space as well as the wider Caribbean space, and how such innovations can be protected so we can really generate significant benefits, not just financial benefits, but also reputational benefits as well within the global market space. You know, it's a global market space. We have to seek methods, approaches to protecting our intellectual property, but more so, how do we have protection with the global space? And we have really clear, we're touching on some of the critical areas in terms of benefiting while protecting your intellectual property. So she'll move into those discussions. And last but not least, Dr. Andre Gordon is well known. He's a foundation scientist in a sense that has been involved in the development of a number of standards. You have a critical services through the company that he founded, Technological Solutions of Jamaica, which is a major player within the service industry, providing scientific and technological solutions to our entrepreneurs. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further delays, I'm going to invite our panelists to, give us a 10 minutes discussion in terms of how they've been utilizing science within their space, the successes that they have had, and then we'll move into the formal discussion as we go through. So, ladies and gentlemen, please can you give our presenters a round of applause. We'll start with Sir Levy, and then we'll move to Professor Wayne McLaughlin, Lily Claire Bellamy, and Andre Gordon.
Thank you very much. And as you look at the pictures, I am sure I look the youngest compared, all except the rose among the thorns, right? Even with Andre, he has lost all his hair. I still have a little bit, right? And this morning, I did want to talk because I think I've lived at the most interesting time in humanity, right? I remember going back to the airport to see my father off in the 40s. The airport was at Harbour Head. The only planes that flew into Jamaica were seaplanes. There was no Palisadas. From seeing seaplanes to having the privilege to fly on the Concorde from London to New York in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Unbelievable. And the privilege of going up into the cockpit and seeing the curvature of the earth, right? Amazing. I remember having in our house, in a passage, a box, a handle, a mouthpiece, and a winder. And that's how we made a telephone call that actually went into the exchange where they plugged my call in. Well, it wasn't me making a call, I was about 4 years old, but they'd plug it in, you'd ask for the party, they'd ring the party, plug it in, to the point of I travel with a little holder, and whenever I want to make a call, I say, Siri, please call such and such. And that happened. But the most amazing thing happened the other day. We were sitting, a group of us were sitting, and we were talking about suicide. And all of a sudden, my phone was on the table, and it said, if you need help, please call this number. I was thrown a curve. I remember as a young boy actually riding in a buggy on Constant Spring Road. I remember distinctly cars having to be wound up by a handle in the front to start. And I had the privilege of driving in an electric car. My son-in-law had a Tesla, and I drove for an hour and a half behind him. I put the car on automatic drive. Hear me carefully. Put it on automatic drive at 80 miles per hour. I drove behind my son-in-law for an hour and a half. If he changed lanes, the only thing I had to do was put down the indicator or put it up. He came into towns, stopped. My car stopped behind him. He drove off my car. The only thing I had to do was touch the steering wheel once every minute. And the car drove an hour and a half behind him. I tell my grandchildren, I said, that's a marvelous thing. But you know what? I'm going to tell you this, that your grandchildren are going to see something amazing. They are going to travel in the air. There'll be air cars. And I know we have scientists here. And scientists, there's only one thing that has to be done for that to be possible. And anybody that can come up with it, I promise I'll give you a case of best dressed chicken. And that includes Andre. What do we have to do as scientists to make that possible? Eh? What? The only thing we have to do is neutralize gravity. Correct, Andre? We have to and you know, that is as far-fetched as we can possibly think. But you know, I have to just bring this in. As you know, I'm Christian, and I have to just bring this in. In Genesis chapter 11, in verse 6, amazing statement is made by God. And he says this, as these people are building this tower up into heaven, because they are of one and one language, I'm going to confuse them and spread them out and change their languages. Listen to this statement, because nothing will be impossible for them to do. We will neutralize gravity. And those changes that I have seen in my lifetime have been amazing. But you younger people are going to see greater changes. I want to share with you today some of the changes that we have seen in our own industry. When we started, the industry took 12 weeks to grow a 3-pound chicken. It took, and it took 3 pounds of feed to produce 1 pound of meat. This needs to be kept in perspective of today. Today, poultry feeds more people than any other protein in the world, right? If those breakthroughs had not taken place, and let me make sure that you understand those breakthroughs were not by genetical engineering or by growth hormones. It was carried out by scientific selective breeding, right? It was also carried out by scientific improvement in grains and scientific breakthroughs in husbandry. All scientific breakthroughs. If those changes had not taken place, ladies and gentlemen, the world would need 180 million metric tons more of corn alone to feed the poultry that we have today. 180 million. As I think about that, I realize that's not possible. 180 million metric tons. That represents 50% almost of what America produces in corn. But I want to share with you a husbandry practice that took place in Jamaica that had a major impact in the industry. Now, the industry starts by purchasing from what is called primary breeders. Those are the people that do all of the selective breeding so that you have the perfect chick male chick and female chick. And we, the industry that produces the chickens, purchases from these primary breeders baby male chicks for $5 US per chick and $3 for the female chick. We don't realize that female discrimination goes all the way back to chickens. It doesn't start with us, right? These baby chicks are grown up as the mommy and daddies of the eggs that go into the hatchery that come out and produce the best dressed chicken, which I hope everybody eats. Again, we're talking about the industry. The feeding of these chickens are extremely, extremely important because at maturity, when you put them together, it is imperative that the males weigh exactly as they should to perform properly, and the females weigh exactly. In the growing period, they are actually test weighed every single week. But there's a problem because the males, being very dominant, will tend to overeat or to eat the female feed. And there had to be a way to prevent the males eating the female feed. So what the industry did was they put on big plastic glasses that were held by an arrow through the nose of all the males. So that when they go into the chicken house, right, they will not eat the female feed. We have to understand, these roosters have to unbelievably perform. The hens have to be mated once every 3 days. There are 1 rooster to 10 hens. The performance of those guys have to be just unbelievable, right? Surpass any male that we know about, right? That's why they cost more. But these plastic glasses, of course, were a hindrance, right? And our Mr. Andy Wildish, whether a manager or a scientist, came up with a breakthrough. As he looked at it and tried to understand the hindrances and what other method could we do, he came up with a simple solution. He put a PVC pipe in actually the feeding troughs, right? So that the male, because he had a comb, could not get in through the grill. So the restriction was done horizontally against laterally. Within a year, the industry through the world adopted it. I wish we had patented it, but we don't know. But I share that with you. And of course, what happened, the roosters never had on glasses, they could see the hens, they could perform a whole lot better, right? I share that with you, ladies and gentlemen, as scientists. Because, sometimes we think we have to develop big things. Small things can have major, major impacts. And, there's something on my heart relative to the scientific community in Jamaica. And that is, I think the SRC and the National Commission for Science and Technology needs to figure how can we get the scientists in Jamaica more closely associated with the commercial world. It is imperative. Israel has led the world in this. How do we get the scientists in relationship with the commercial world and productive world? There's another thing on my heart, and that is, as we reviewed some of the work that scientists have done, and scientists spend some considerably time. But there are 2 things. One is, as they work, are they asking the question, so what? So what is the effect of my work? I did a course at Harvard University, and one of the main professors there was professor of marketing. And he, up there, they're sometimes very demonstrative. But he was saying, any proposal that came to me, any business proposal that came to me, that did not start with the market, and he had a book in his hand, I threw it away. And scientists, I beg, think about, what is the market for the work I'm doing? Does it have a marketable impact? One of the outstanding scientists that have had that sort of impact is our Dr. Andre God. And I really think the fact of how he has impacted not only the industry as far as food is concerned, but health and all the other things. And I congratulate you for taking that, Andre, step. Lead the rest of your scientists to be thinking, the work that I'm doing, how is it going to impact? Does it have a market? And I will be doing all I can to really be working with National Commission for Science and Technology to try and bring the two communities together. Blessing to all.
Food for thought, and in most cases, sometimes we ignore the small innovations and the role that these innovations actually play. I think a lot of times we're looking on producing the most efficient engine and want to be recognized for producing some of the most advanced technologies, that we ignore the smaller parts of everyday life. Ladies and gentlemen, as we now move to Prof. Wayne McLaughlin, please remember to note your questions, no epistles, please, just questions and brief discussions. Write them down. Thank you. Prof. Mac?
Yeah, thank you, Cliff. All right, morning, everyone. While the PowerPoint comes up, it's really a pleasure to be here. And among my colleagues, Andre, here, of course, Mr. Levy. All right, so my talk basically will be looking at S&T, of course, how it helped to drive business, and of course, to make it resilient. That's really, really important. And my background, as Cliff said, is in molecular biology. So straight scientist, but of moving into business. All right, so the facilities that we had set up 16 years ago, is Caribbean Genetics. That's one of the first lab we had set up. It's a molecular diagnostic lab. So it basically spans the biosciences, molecular diagnostic industry. But to give a little perspective before getting into it. So as you know, COVID came around 2.5 years ago, and this basically was really caused an exceptional disruption in everything, in all our lives, basically. And it affected the value chain. As we know, the industries closed down, businesses closed. So that was a really major challenge. But of course, there are others. As you know, there's flood in Pakistan, so there are a lot of events happening, conflicts. As we know, Ukraine, war right now, we can't get grain, prices of food go, sky high, and fuel and things like that. So other challenges, of course, include trade policies, regulatory changes that might come along, and of course, cybercrime, intellectual property theft. So there are many things that can affect business, right? So we all have to be aware of this as we get into business, right? All right, so again, the disruptions, this is, as I said, one of the most major one, and the pandemic has pushed global economy into a recession, and some companies, as I said, fail, freeze, but some companies actually grew, and make it really thriving and advancing, adding new technologies just to get around this pandemic. And this major difference between failure and success is really resilience. So that's really the key word. I'm not so sure if you can see this slide very well, but this slide came from McKinsey. It's a marketing company, and this was in their publication in March 2020. And of course, you have to scan, and look what's happening, right? So they came up with this, and they predicted that certain industries would fail and which one would succeed, right? And as we know, the ones that failed are like entertainment, tourism. I mean, not failed, but at the close, tourism. And the ones that succeeded were finance, insurance, so. And what they were saying is that you have to have certain things in place, basically. And one of the key things was a good financial backing or background to support any change that you'd want to introduce, to add value. So those, looking at, just summarizing the slide because probably wouldn't have been able to see it, but the accommodation, food services, tourism, clothes, art, entertainment, as we know, clothes, and the one that was least affected and financially resilient were the finance and insurance businesses. So basically, when you talk about resilience, it should be seen as an ability to deal with adversity, stand shocks, and continuously adapt and accelerate as disruptions and crises arises over time. Right? Adapt, very key. Self-reorganize, right? And of course, continue to function in times of crisis. So that's what we really had to do in Carrigen. We had to look at what was happening, how can we change, and at the same time make sure that we survive. Right? So if an organism was unable to pivot, make those changes, and if the infrastructure was not in place from both a technology and policy standpoint, then that business or agency would basically struggle, right? And so when we look at science and technology, clearly we know that it's very, very important in building resilience. Right? Now, some of the technologies we knew that really, really helped, us going forward was that of the digital technologies. This played a vital, vital role. For example, online classes, without the Zoom and Face, all those things, basically wouldn't be able to. Health and connect people outside, communities, again, keeping families together. Quick move to remote learning. So a lot of offices, of course, everybody went home and continued doing their businesses. And we know the pandemic accelerated the digital services, e-commerce, right? Everything changed because of the availability of, as I said, finances to basically put these things in place and to allow those technologies to work for you. In the biosciences industry, molecular diagnostic industry, despite COVID-19 pandemic, the biosciences economy really remained resilient. Really, really remained resilient. And that was really important. So several strategies that help to create and grow and retain this industry. Basically, just to give you a few, people. People is really, really important. Your team, absolutely important. Right? So most companies have access to equipment and technologies, but without the people, it could not work. Right? So the human capital, very, very important. Attracting and retaining a continuous flow of educated persons, again, really important, because how are you going to innovate? How are you going to make those changes without having those people to think and to get things in place, right? I should say for Carrigen, in the 17 years, we have not lost one person has left Carrigen in 17 years. Right? And I should say, all are trained at UWI, right? Coming through either the MSc in forensic science or, biochemistry or molecular biology because of our background, right? So we are really proud of that, and everybody pulled together to ensure that these changes were put in effect and to make us continue. Physical infrastructure, again, really, really important in terms of being able to make these innovations, because you can't bring in new equipment and in old facilities, right? The electricity won't work, right? The power supply won't work, right? So these are some things you have to think about, before, say, you want to bring in all these new things to get things going and so, but really, really important. And so such industry really demand modern facilities, right? And you have to upgrade and keep them always upgrading. Right? Technology transfers, as Mr. Levy mentioned, the work with industry and universities, really important. So as you know, the COVID-19, the vaccine between AstraZeneca and Oxford University, that was a real good example of how things need to work. So industry and universities has to work. And again, Carigen partnered in terms of we were basically one of the first lab that provided PCR for diagnosis of COVID-19, right? And actually we were one of the first lab that was accredited. And luckily, well, I shouldn't say luckily, planning before we became internationally accredited by the College of American Pathologists. And if you remember on the website, persons coming into Jamaica had to get their COVID-19 test from a CAP accredited lab, right? So, and going back to the US or Canada, they also needed to have COVID-19 tests from a CAP accredited lab. So again, we were just in the right place and to ensure that we were able to do all these facility tests. So really important, right? So the partnership between universities and private companies, and of course, need to include entrepreneurship as part of the technology transfer effort. Right? And this goes to training at universities. You know, we need to include more of that into our, basic science courses or things like that. So just looking at Carigen specifically, building resilience, be ready in advance, very, very important. Have highly trained and motivated team. Invest in proven technology, really important. I know in the COVID-19 thing, people were buying all sorts of equipment from all different places, never been tested before, and offering these things. Invest in process automation, right? We are fully automated. I mean, we can run one sample up to 500 samples within a day. So really important. International accreditation, flexibility and scalability, to move from 0 to 100 in 0 seconds, 10 seconds. That's really important. Redundancy. You have to have more than one piece of that type of equipment. Because during the COVID-19, persons weren't traveling to come and service your equipment. So you had to have more than one piece to allow you to continue, right? And of course, your excellent relationship with vendors, suppliers, because of the whole supply chain issue. Luckily, we had that relationship and we were able to get supplies. And of course, maintain adequate inventory, in the business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Really clear. I'm going to ask if Andre can go first and then we'll wrap up with the IP components. Are you? You're fantastic. So just want to remind us also. Thanks much, Prof. We're going to jump into questions pretty shortly. Dr. Gordon, floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Cliff, and thank you for the kind words, Robert. Mr. Levy and I go way, 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 way back. We have spent a lot of time with the NCST, and before that, when Jamaica Broilers was developing, Professor Ahmad and myself and Wayne and others work with them as well. So you made me look older than you, that's why you said. That is also not far from the truth, but what I'm going to do is give you some examples of application of science, because I'm an applied scientist. You would have heard about TSL. Let me just back up here. We're 26 years old and we apply science to the productive sector in the Caribbean. Our team members are based across the region and we serve pretty much all of the productive sectors, including the hospitality and food service sectors, export sectors, and so on. Our customer base stretches across the Caribbean into the UK, US, and we have a couple customers in the African continent as well. All right, so over the years, we've used a lot of technology to help improve the industry across the region. Our focus has been on what we like to call systems technology, which we apply in our work with companies, whether large companies or small companies. Our focus has been on product development, problem solving, strengthening value chains, and gaining or maintaining market access, as well as systems implementation. This is just a list of some of the technologies that we've either developed or applied to various projects over the years. The electron microscopy, I would have applied with some of the work we did with Jamaica broilers, but Robert wouldn't know that or care about it. As he said, it's the application at the end that is important. Ingredient technology, sensory measurement, texture profile analysis. A big one which we use is predictive modeling technology and shelf life, accelerated shelf life measurement and prediction and process optimization technologies. All of these are, except for the, like the electron microscopy, all of these are systems related technologies. So we've used, predictive modeling, shelf life measurement, rheology, and IT to develop a range of combined approaches that continue to be used with Caribbean manufacturers and exporters to solve problems with a range of products, from things like sauces, browning, juices, and other beverages, largely to help them produce better or access markets. The work improved the quality, manufacturing, and shelf life of a range of products to globally competitive levels and facilitate the new or continued market access to key metropolitan markets. Many small manufacturers across the region have benefited from this. Critically and importantly, all of this applied technology work has been published in refereed international journals or has been collated in invited books or publications. So we have a couple of them that I just run through there, invited by academic press. Amongst the key successes, Benjo CMOS from Dominic was one of the companies that benefited. They were able to export across the Caribbean from a little small operation the size of that row there. Of course, we spoke on Monday about the work we did with Aki and Kong. Barbados, most Barbadian manufacturers of sauces and spices exported for the first time after we worked with a range of them to transform their operations and get them into different markets. And in general, we've worked with manufacturers right across the Caribbean, from Bermuda down to Suriname. Just thought you might find this interesting. We've actually done quite a bit of work with product development, including food service. So Island Grill and Mothers, some of their menu, some of their more successful items, and you probably wouldn't think of it this way, would have been developed by our team many, many years ago, including the rice that you get when you go to these places, because restaurants didn't know how to do rice quick serve. And then there are a range of other products, jerk seasoning, JF Mills Festival Mix, yogurt, forages, a lot of these that are branded items that we would probably never have spoken of before. I want to share, in the time that's left, some specific examples and how this has impacted businesses. And I'm going to center this around Mountaintop Springs Limited, which is a bottled water exporter from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which never exported before our intervention. So this is a small company. When we started working with them, they had 5 employees. And the first thing we did was reorganize their operations to make it a lot more efficient. It's much different from this now. These pictures are many years old. But allow them to produce a lot more efficiently, a lot more than they were typically producing. They were the first company in the Caribbean to believe in our system and employ good manufacturing practices, proper pest control. So this is the first properly structured pest control layout that we are aware of in the Caribbean. And then they were also going to build a new warehouse that would have cost them about $1 million at the time. By just helping them with systems, reorganize that warehouse, as you will see, they were able to move through 10 times as much volume in the same space without doing anything else. So essentially what we did is transform their operations, staff competencies and their efficiencies, helped to open up markets for them in Jamaica and other places, opened up significant contract packing opportunities, and positioned the product in the regional market. Critically, they were able to get financing and grow in their sustainable profitability. This just gives you an indication of the growth in both their exports and in contract packing opportunities, both of which increased tenfold over the period. And I share with you some of the numbers. Their exports increased tenfold. They went from under about 4% of sales to over 25% of sales, 20% of sales in 2005, and then 25% in 2013 last time I checked. Profitability increased by 163% over the period and climbed to 1.37 million US. They went from shipping to no other country to shipping to 5 countries and 8 other islands, and their staffing moved to 45, and their asset base grew by 330% by 2013. That's the kind of practical impact that work can have. I'll share 2 other quick examples with you before I close. So I'm a microbiologist as well, and there's an organism by the name of Alicyclobacillus that we never heard about until we had to deal with it. Alicyclobacillus doesn't cause illnesses, but it spoils product. In fact, it's a major economic threat to the beverage industry globally. And when we were asked to help a particular product with it, which was literally facing ruin at the time, nobody knew about it. There was very little published work. To summarize it, myself and Odette Knight, who was with me at the time, she's now at CPJ, we did a lot of research work, identified the organism, came up with a way of preventing its outgrowth in the product because it could not be destroyed. It's a thermophilic, acidophilic bacteria that the processing can't destroy, so we had to find a way to prevent it from spoiling the product even if it were present, and eliminate it if it were not. The work that we did was presented at an international conference, and I think publication somewhere, I don't remember. But it was and remains the first and only study that we are aware of Alicyclobacillus contamination in a commercial production setting with industrially relevant approaches in a developing country context. This was in 2004, just in case you are wondering which product it was. The last thing I'd want to share with you is the work we did with it's 5 minutes, so I shouldn't go by that. Thank you. I have lots of time then, so I can't stop. No. The last thing I want to share with you is the work we did, which extended, I think, up to just before the pandemic with coconut water. So all of this work, everything as applied as it may seem at the end, is based on properly designed scientific studies that can stand up to scrutiny of external reviewers. So for coconut water, our objective was to move the industry from having a product that would only last 2 or 3 days, even refrigerated, to where it is today, which is you can get coconut water. Coconut water is exported, and it can pretty much last 10 to 14 days depending on the manufacturer. So we did studies including the effect of handling on quality and shelf life, the causes of spoilage and shelf life reduction in bottled refrigerated water. And by the way, SRC has done a lot of work on the pinking as well. I don't know if it's published, but I know that they've done work on it. And determining key characteristics of the factors that led to quality deterioration and shelf life. And finally, we looked at what practices would impact the shelf life and quality of the product in an industrial setting. We studied a range of factors: carbohydrate profile, the microbiology of the product, the kinetics of deterioration, what were the enzymes that were involved. And essentially at the end of the day, and this work is published in 2 places or 3, I don't remember, we we were able to identify, and I can't point because you won't see, but that if you can manage the pH of coconut water, just the pH if nothing else, or if you can measure the pH, you can determine how close the product is to going off. And this is related to turbidity and the free fatty acids content and a range of other things. The impact was that all of this work was applied to literally transforming the industry. And more recently, we used some other work to document the situation in Guyana, and were able to convince Guyana and Trinidad to settle their differences and allow Guyana to export to Trinidad and elsewhere. And Shara knows about that because she was involved. So the last thing I'll quickly mention before I close is, and I think Robert alluded to it, during the when the pandemic hit, as Wayne indicated, everything changed. And we realized that we needed to be in a position to help the country. And so essentially what we did is we applied carefully selected appropriate technologies to help Jamaica better cope with the COVID-19 pandemic and critically keep our clients that we needed to be working open, right? Help keep businesses open. So basically we adapted a RT-PCR method that was originally designed for doing environmental surfaces and combined it with a method that the FDA had approved for taking samples from the anterior nares of human subjects. We validated it against the traditional nasopharyngeal swab that those of you who have done a COVID test would know is not fun. The protocol delivered a specificity of 100%, sensitivity of 100%. Again, we adapted technology, created our own by bringing technologies together. And the benefits were that we could now do tests on like children who would not want to have that lung swab going down and other people who are sensitive. We were able to do environmental sampling and mapping for COVID-19 that assisted enterprises, particularly in the early stages, to be sure that their cleaning was effective. We also mapped the data that predicted the peaks and troughs of the pandemic in Jamaica. So we could tell when we were going to have another wave, and we use that to guide our customers in helping to manage their risk from March 2021. And we identified the first breakthrough cases that, well, let me put it this way, before the Ministry of Health and WHO and others announced that you could get COVID again, if you had gotten it before, we knew that the period was 2 to 3 months because we had the data to prove it. We also knew that the vaccines were not going to give you 100% protection. We knew this from March 2021 because we saw first breakthrough infections. Of course, we couldn't say it at the time. It wouldn't be very popular. I probably wouldn't be here. I would have been strung up, so we just had to keep that to ourselves. To sum up, the approach that we have taken at TSL can best be defined as changing the game. It's audacious. It's probably, to some extent, some people might think it's not playing by the rules, and it's not. Our approach is, how do we solve the problem? We start with the objective and only the objective in mind. We plan to achieve it without placing any limitations whatsoever on how it will be done. And we ignore the current state and rules of play totally. This has worked for us. I commend it to you if you don't end up in jail or shot or otherwise. But it allows scientists to think freely without fettering ourselves by what is now the norm. As we say, TSL, science improving lives through health and enterprise. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Andre. I know there are many, many questions and points we have for discussion. So we'll take our last short presentation, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll move into the discussion. I say short because she has an empty rum bottle.
I'm feeling this
discriminated against. I didn't hear you mention short for anybody else. Okay.
So,
All right. So I have a number of props with me, and we'll speak about the props in the question and answer time. But I want you to contemplate my props, right? So it's a bottle of Appleton rum, empty bottle. It's a pop-up socket. It's a ballpoint pen, and it's a book. All right. So we can think about these, and we'll discuss them all. Oh no, that's my bottle of rum. I brought it all the way from Geneva. Okay, good morning. Dr. Shara Watson, Executive Director of the Scientific Research Council. Dr. Cliff Riley, Chair of this morning's proceedings. Dr. the Honorable Robert Levy. Professor McLaughlin, Dr. Gordon, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, my SRC family, good morning. I have a real speech, and those of you who know me are probably in shock that I have a real speech. You brought the prop table, thank you. All right, so do the names Alexandra Volta, Humphrey Davy, and Joseph Swan ring any bells to anybody in here? How about Thomas Edison? Right. Well, Thomas Edison is a holder of the 1880 U.S. historic patent for the incandescent light, commonly called the light bulb, that paved the way for the universal domestic use of electric light. And if you look up, you see different manifestations of it and over there. However, the inventions of Volta, Davy, and Swan were critical in the development of his technology. Where Edison surpassed his competition was in developing a practical and inexpensive light bulb and doing what Mr. Wildish didn't do, as Mr. Levy pointed out. They did not protect their intellectual property. That's the worst mistake you can make, okay? So I'm going to encourage everybody in here, if you have a wonderful idea about something, run, do not walk to the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Find out if what you have can be protected. And do not, I repeat, do not share it with anybody. Not your wife, not your husband, not your best friend. Come and tell us. We signed the Official Secrets Act. We can't share it with anybody, but we can guide you. And it is critical for you to protect it before you share it. All right. So I'm going to speak about the power of intellectual property rights. I'm biased, of course. To help science-based business build profitable and resilient businesses and advance our economy and society. And before you think intellectual property have nothing to do with me, every single one of you in here have on a branded product. You're supporting somebody's trademark. My shoes, which I'm suffering in, are naturalizers. That's a trademark, okay? My dress also, it has a brand. I made sure to wear, I chose my clothes this morning deliberately to show you the power of IP. So you can check out my tag after. All right, for science, seriously. Yeah, you can check it. Check it. You check it. Gucci. No, it's not Gucci. It's Ralph, okay? It's a Ralph. All right. For science-based, all right, so let's get back to the serious stuff now. So the power of intellectual property is what we're looking at. For science-based businesses, intellectual property is arguably the most valuable asset, and it needs to be understood and protected. Intellectual property is an intangible asset resulting from human thought and intellect. IP rights cover a range of inventions and innovations, including copyright, industrial designs, patents, which is perhaps the one that is most commonly used by the scientific community, geographical indications, hence my bottle of Jamaica rum, which is protected as a GI, trademarks, which we spoke about extensively. But to maintain your competitive advantage, businesses in the science-based industry rely on these assets. But by maximizing the potential of your intellectual property, science-based business have the ability to protect their innovations, expand into new markets like Dr. Gordon, grow their business, build partnerships, generate revenue, and ultimately build economic and sustainable enterprises. To build a profitable business that offers science-based solutions to Jamaica's problems require, and if you were here on the first day of the conference, you would have heard about the importance and necessity for us to come up with solutions to our problems, right? So I know there are many problems in the world, but we need to solve our problems so we can build our economy and become #1 country in the whole world. Okay, it might seem like a daunting task for many scientists, especially those with complex and diverse portfolios. Intellectual property, what does that have to do with me? You might be thinking as a scientist. But if you come to Jaipur or if you find any intellectual property-based attorney, they can help you. And I stress intellectual property-based attorney because if you get charged with a criminal offense, don't come to me. I can't help you. But if it's an IP matter, you can come to me or you can go to an attorney who has knowledge in intellectual property. And if we look at the medical sciences, if you have a problem with your heart, you're not going to go to an orthopedic surgeon. Well, I hope you're not going to. So in the same way, if you have an issue with intellectual property, get somebody who knows about intellectual property. 3 things that I want you to remember. Protecting your intellectual property will benefit you and ultimately your business. IP has the ability to build economic resilience of a science-based enterprise, and intellectual property basically is the foundation of all science-based industries. So for those of you, how many people in here know about IP? Because then I can skip 2 pages. All right, I can't skip the 2 pages. So, okay, so I'm going to briefly outline the types of intellectual property, and I'm not looking at that counter. So you just see, this is a crash course in intellectual property, right? So intellectual property covers industrial property and copyright and related rights. So industrial property looks at designs, patents, trademarks, geographical indications, and copyright and related rights deals with what we are well known globally for, our creativity, our culture and our creativity. So it covers literary works. So if you write a scientific paper, that's protected with copyright. Dramatic works. So if you do a presentation that shows how what you have developed can help. And for those of you who saw the presentation on mental health, there were quite a few animations, and those would be protected with copyright. Computer software, and I know people are into the tech, so those are protected with copyright. Performances and broadcasts. So basically, intellectual property rights covers the legal rights which are granted to creators for a specific period of time. So you don't have your IP forever, unless it's a geographical indication, and that lasts forever. Unless the place where it is produced disappears, then you can't have the GI. So, since we're in a science-based meeting, I'm going to focus on inventions. And an invention is protected with a patent, and it lasts. Anybody want to tell me how long you think it lasts? Those who put up their hands. 20 years. I have presents, but you have to get the answers or you won't get the presents. So if you make an application, once you start the process, you get the right, okay? But after we've examined it, if you don't qualify, then you don't have the right. But the important thing is to make the application so the protection can start. So you would get 20 years if you have an invention. So basically it's 20 years because it's giving you time to recover from all the R&D that you did. And I'm going to encourage you, before you spend time doing research, search to ensure that what you're looking for has not already been invented. Too often people come to protect inventions that are not new, that are not novel, and that somebody else has protected. And you would have wasted all your research, all your money, and everything. And there are simple ways to search, and we can teach you how to do the search. Okay, intellectual property builds economic resilience, right, for your industries. So The importance of IP has really grown exponentially over the last 30 years. It's commonplace now to see intellectual property being discussed in regular newspapers, and those of you who subscribe to the Jamaica Observer, on Tuesday of this week, page 3 had a major article all about intellectual property. So you can go and look on that, and it was also online. So it's not something that's no longer discussed in mainstream media. It is something that touches and concerns all of us. And even there was a study carried out by the European Union Intellectual Property Office and the European Patent Office, and it was estimated that small and medium-sized enterprises that own intellectual property rights have a 68% higher revenue per employee than those without. So these assets can represent over 80% of the average business value for micro, small, and the slide's gone too far. Over 80% of, the assets can represent over 80% of the average business value for MSMEs, and the value of IP is closer to 90%. In the Jamaican context, MSMEs represent over 90% of the island's registered business. So if an MSME, including a science-based business, taps into the value by registering their IP, they will be able to unlock a new level of growth. Recently, the government of Jamaica, through the Intellectual Property Office, and the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office is an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, commonly referred to by my minister, Biennial, as the business ministry. So anything that you want to do with business, you come to our ministry. Anything with IP, you come to Jaipur. So we signed 3 agreements: the Hague Agreement, Madrid Protocol, and the Patent Cooperation Treaty. The Hague Agreement basically allows you to protect your design in all of the countries that are party to that agreement by making one application, and you can do that at Jaipur. Madrid Protocol protects your trademark in all of the jurisdictions where you want to protect your trademark that are party. And the PCT, which is the one of most relevance to science-based industries, protects your inventions. And the critical thing is, if you don't have your invention protected in a jurisdiction, someone can exploit it. So it's necessary for you to protect it. Like Allegra, which we heard about this morning, they are protected. Every tablet you put in your mouth is protected with a patent. And the people who invent those medications, they don't play. They recognize the need to protect it. One famous little invention, which is Viagra, and all of you who are scientists will know that Viagra wasn't created for what it's being used for now. Again, the invention had a different life. What it started out for is not what it ended up as. But why I mentioned Viagra, it's a blue pill. So the design of the tablet is protected. The invention is protected. It's a whole bundle of rights in that one little tablet. Okay, so I would encourage persons to come to Jaipur and learn how you can utilize these international treaties to which the government of Jamaica has acceded. In the intellectual property ecosystem, the government of Jamaica, in recognition of the importance of IP, has put a project in place basically to see how MSMEs, and if you are a science-based industry and you're not huge, you would benefit under this program. What we're looking at is how the intellectual property that you have can be used as collateral to obtain loans from financial institutions. This stems from the 2013 Security Interest in Personal Property Act, which mentioned that intellectual property could be used as collateral. So basically what this project is doing is fleshing out to see how an MSME can use their IP as collateral. Okay, the COVID virus, which a number of us have spoken about from the start of this conference, was a great leveler, and equalizer. And yes, it was, seriously, the world became very even during the virus. All of us were getting the virus. Unfortunately, quite a few of us died. And then you had to find new ways to work, okay? And you had to develop your resilience. What we found at the Intellectual Property Office was that several persons started new business. I see my moderator coming for me. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to finish. No, I'm not finished. There's no thanks. Okay, let me skip. You know, I find this discriminatory because I was timing all my other speakers, and I won't say anything. I won't say it's because I'm a woman. I won't say it's because I'm the only person who's not from a science-based industry. I won't. Okay, I'm just going to finish. Lord, keep on my mouth. Okay, Vision 2030, and I'll finish with this. The National Development Plan, right, includes developing and enabling business environment, a technology-enabled society, internationally competitive industry structures as primary outcomes. The plan recognizes that creating an innovative culture requires collaboration between the public sector, private sector, and universities, high-quality research and development, protection of intellectual property, and promotion of entrepreneurship. In October 2018, the government of Jamaica, through the Intellectual Property Office, signed a service level agreement with the World Intellectual Property Office, World Intellectual Property Organizations, forgive me, to establish technology innovation support centers. The Scientific Research Council will soon have their own technology innovation support center, which will allow persons from the scientific industry to come to the SRC and to learn how they can protect their IP and to be able to search to see what inventions there are and what solutions to problems there are that can be modified so that you can get your own invention and patent and protect and grow your business. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Leke. We love you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we had some lovely presentations, and we have been seeing and hearing in terms of some of the solutions that we have been applying across the board. Mr. Levy spoke clearly in terms of some of the solutions, innovations within the agro-productive sector, how they have applied such knowledge and some of the solutions to increase the productivity in terms of the broader industry. We also heard from Prof. Mack in terms of how they apply modern technologies, modern biotechnology to make things much more seamless in terms of, the service that they do provide and the solutions they do provide. And we know Caritox is one such very important entity, and have saved quite a number of lives in Jamaica, especially when our clinicians are unaware of the causative agent to certain illnesses or certain symptoms displayed by individuals. And we all know Carigen has, put forward quite a bit of clarity in several disputes, especially family-related disputes. Andre, always a champion of science and technology, always going against greed in terms of how we come up with these solutions. And, as we move to the discussion, one of the questions I want to pose, is pretty much to Andre and how it is tied to the other presenters on the platform. Lily Claire, a very, very passionate friend on intellectual property, and I must say JIPO has done some fantastic work in terms of how we interface with, appreciate, and recognize the role of intellectual property in terms of our day-to-day operations or day-to-day involvement in science and technology, and how scientists take their worldview in terms of how we move forward. Coming from an academic space, we're always first to publish, get the work to a peer-reviewed journal, get the work to peer-reviewed journal. They later realize, guess what? We signed up with the copyright to the peer-reviewed journal, it's no longer ours. So, brought a lot of clarity to us scientists who are at the core of the basic research. We have two questions here. I'm going to jump in the question shortly, but just a general question. We operate a small not really small, but R&D based solutions come to rapid solutions that look a lot on pharmaceuticals and nutraceutical products. Dr. Gordon, in in terms of the local support and regulatory system, do you find that these support, you indicated it, it may end up being shot or end up in jail or something, but do you find there's enough supportive mechanisms from our government institutions to stimulate and promote such innovation and problem solving across the board?
So thank you for that question, Cliff. I was just saying to Lily Clear, Jaipur is such an exemplary institution in this country. Most of us here, even though we're in science, don't know it because we haven't taken anything to them to be protected. But, for me, and I'm going to answer the question, but I want to make the point. Jaipur encapsulates a lot of the future of Jamaica's scientific and technological development because we already have an institution that has excellent leadership and is in a position to help us really move forward where we really start to innovate. To go to your question, unfortunately, hence my last slide, unfortunately, Jamaica is still in a command and control mode. And command and control mode, where most of our scientific endeavor, unless we do it like Robert has described, where you do it in the company, you don't try to do anything, nobody knows, you take your benefit and you move forward. The moment you oftentimes try to engage with the official sector or officialdom, the first answer you get is no, can't do that, that can't work. And you are shut down. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure Wayne if Wayne had to ask permission to develop carriage ends, it wouldn't be there. Yeah. If Jamaica Broilers had to ask permission to do most of the things that you've done, it would not have happened. And unfortunately, in our 60 years of independence, Jamaica has not moved forward in that regard. So people particularly in the sector that you asked about, why do you think Henry Lowe has had to go overseas to do what he needs to do? Because he would never get approvals here. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but the reality is if we don't face the facts, then we will never unfetter scientists to do what they need to do here and create real wealth and real value here.
Yeah. That's true indeed, Dr. Gordon. And, I know Prof. Mack has had quite a bit of experience in terms of the different industries that have evolved. And we're having a quick chat this morning in terms of the rapid rise and pause in the cannabis industry, the rise and fall of psychedelic mushroom industry as well. But Prof. Mack, in terms of the confidence that persons have, or local manufacturers, and Dr. Levy as well, the confidence that local manufacturers and industry personnel have on our local scientists and our companies. I don't know, Dr. Gordon, if you face similar challenges that a number of our companies tend to go to overseas companies, pay an arm and a leg for such solutions, but then when the solutions are available locally and they decide to even take that route, they don't want to pay for it. Prof. Mack, any experiences there?
No, unfortunately, that's true. I mean, I think most of our local industries think overseas is better. But in fact, our scientists can do us even better, and even at a lower rate, as you mentioned, in terms of cost to provide such a service. That's unfortunate. Maybe we don't promote ourselves enough. So I think that is something us scientists basically should look at to ensure that we promote ourselves properly and to ensure that we can get part of that job done.
No, I think it comes back, and had it in a speech, but one thing that we need to understand is everybody has an area of competence. Yeah. The scientists come up with the solutions to the problem, but we need to also engage somebody who can put it out there for us. The marketing, so you have your trademark, and you get somebody so that you become associated with your solution. Everybody in Jamaica knows Jamaica Broilers. Why? They have an excellent marketing campaign. I mean, everybody knows Jamaica Broilers. There's no question about it. Exactly. Everybody knows it. But there needs to be the name recognition. So you have to spend on communication for people for you to become a household name. I mean, yesterday I was at a forum. Before I came here, I had a major institution in this country. And the gentleman was speaking and using 1 million acronyms, right? My turn came to speak. So I said, fine, he's acronyming, I'll acronym too. So I said, SRC, and he looked at me like, what? I said, well, you know, you were using acronyms, so I used also, I said the Scientific Research Council. And I won't tell you where I was because I was in shock and awe that he did not know what the SRC was. And so he didn't, and this is somebody who should. So what I'm saying is all of us have to be out there promoting who we are. You see, which is why Dr. Levy said it. He looked at my tag, which isn't Gucci, but he said Gucci. Every Jamaican person knows Gucci, don't it? Right. So it's all about marketing, whether what you, and people need to know what you do. Because people use your services, but they don't know. I would say Carrigen, and somebody go like, what? What is that? But they need to know. So I think we have to. And I mean, I heard what Dr. Gordon said, and I think, I mean, as a part of the government of Jamaica, I must say that we had a strategic planning retreat, the Ministry of Business, and our minister basically has given a charge to us to find ways to solve problems. And he says, so like what you've said today, no, I have a responsibility to let him know that you have said, these are the problems. So you tell me what the problems are, and he will find a solution. So we need to know what the problems are so we can solve them. But part of it is you need to market.
Let it clear, the problems are well known.
No, Cliff. No, that is a couple. What you need, I'm sorry, but what you need to do is say to me, these are the 5 problems. Document them and give them to me, and I will put them on, and the next time we have a biennial conference, they will be solved.
All right, let it clear. Thank you for that one.
Sorry, Chair, just a quick comment about companies not being willing to pay, and Wayne is right, but I would be remiss if I had Dr. Levy. I call him Robert, but I'm going to call him the Honorable Doctor, the Honorable Robert. His company is not one of those, and we shouldn't broad brush. There are companies in Jamaica, like Jamaica Broilers, that has been employing scientists and paying for services for decades. Unfortunately, it is not the norm. That's the truth. Exactly. Big companies, and what we have found at TSL working across the entire Caribbean, believe it or not, you do have big companies like Jamaica Broilers that do that. But it's the small people that are willing to, as Ishara shaking her head, SRC has the same experience. These are the people who are willing to take 25% of their income and invest it in trying to make their ideas a reality. And so when we look at development overall, we really need to take as a fact that the drivers of growth are not necessarily going to be the larger ones of us. Yeah. It's going to come from the middle and the small. So we need to facilitate that.
Fantastic. Dr. Levy, any comments?
No, I do think, I wanted to share, there's a young man in Jamaica that works with the international company. I can share his name, Matthew McClarty, son of the famous Nicky McClarty. But he works with a US company called New Tech or something like that. It's quite amazing. He works with entrepreneurs that are starting or have an invention, right? These companies pay into new tech, I think it's $10,000. They go through a period of training for maybe 3 months as to how to take their ideas and inventions to the market. Once they have gone through that training, then this company now introduces them to venture capitalists. It's an amazing, they have, I think he says they have 300 new inventions coming into that company every single month.
Fantastic.
I mean, and you know, that's a thing that I think we really, where SRC and NCST can be a bridge from the thought and the invention and also the protection to take ideas of our scientists from the concept to the market. And it's a very important step.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Levy. We have 3 questions from the audience, and all 3 questions are for Dr. Gordon. The first one, Dr. Gordon, it's unfortunate name of the person not here, but it's from one of the members in the audience. How were you able to address the problems regarding to the Acetobacillus bacteria, being in mind that it's heat resistant and acid resistant? You know, how were you able to achieve that difficult task?
What's that?
Question.
Oh, okay. So basically, what our approach has always been to use systems technology. We have a team at TSL. Typically, every problem we pull a team together. We look at the problem and we say, all right, some people are going to do research. You're going to research this component of it. I will look at the thermal processing side. That's an area of expertise. So essentially, we found out about the organism. It was very difficult because there wasn't a lot of published work. There were no reports of it in developing countries. I think there was one in South Africa, which is halfway developed. And essentially, we identified that it couldn't be destroyed. We knew the product couldn't take more than a certain amount of heat, or the product itself would be unpalatable. So we had to develop interventions in the processing, from controlling the packaging, raw material, the process itself, how the product was cooled, how it was stored, the entire process that would allow the organism to either be eliminated or, if it were present, to be unable to grow without adding a single, preservative to the product, right? And this kind of approach actually works with a lot of other. It was a similar kind of approach that was used for coconut water as well.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Dr. Gordon. You see, one of the things I want persons to understand and recognize, not just persons from academia, but also those in industry and investment, is that we have extensive expertise within Jamaica. We have persons who are aware of some of the challenges. They know the demographic, they know the landscape, and there are resources available. It's not only a matter of, always going after Harvard University or Princeton or some of these universities. We have extensive expertise and have solved quite a number of problems from our scientists, through our scientists here in Jamaica. And Dr. Levy even mentioned some of the solutions that came, through his company by simple observation and us applying such knowledge to ensure that we can solve some of our problems. Another question for you, Dr. Gordon, before I move to the last one. Dr. Gordon again? Okay, and we have a few minutes left. So Dr. Gordon, and I think Prof. Mack as well can chime in on this one. Considering the changes in the COVID testing requirements, how do you pivot the investment in equipment and other resources, to other areas to come up with other solutions?
It's all right. They paid for them already. It was how much for an injection? I can't remember.
That sounds like somebody wants to hear a business plan. Well, it's quite interesting because, the COVID experience has taught us a lot about working in the healthcare space. TSL has always been involved in healthcare because we were involved in public health and environmental health and occupational health for over 20 years. We never thought about it that way. COVID changed the way we looked at our business. You know, food safety is public health. It's a key part of public health. And to give a quick answer, we are in the healthcare space. You will hear more about it. We already offer a wide range of diagnostic tests. So actually the equipment that we bought and the capabilities were not just for COVID testing. It was for a range of other diagnostic, just as Wayne has described. But I want to make the point because the work that Carigent has done is extraordinary. For Jamaica to have a capability that serves the Caribbean, am I right, Wayne? That allows you can't access the US unless you get a test that affirms what your paternity and your lineage is. This was developed here by Prof and his team, right? There are not a lot of countries that have that capability easily available. So one of the things we are seeking to do is add to the capabilities available. And that is the area that we're targeting.
Prof?
All right, so for Carigent, basically, our equipment setup basically tests not just COVID, but all other clinical STIs, all other clinical testing that we do, and also forensic. So the equipment had to meet that certain standard first for forensic cases, and it's applied all across all the other tests that we do. So all the PCR work we do, all the DNA sequencing, all the paternity analysis that we do, it's basically the same equipment. So all we did basically was to buy maybe 2 other pieces of automated extractors. That was it. To allow us to go from either, you may have an emergency case at the hospital, for example, and they need to turn around, RSV in half an hour, so we could extract 1 sample. So our extractors would manage up to 100 or 200 samples. So it's just a matter of flexibility, as you say, pivoting to allow us to basically continue to use the equipment.
Thanks so much, Prof. Another question, Dr. Levy, and I think this is a pressing issue that we've been looking at over the years. We know you play a major role in terms of National Commission on Science and Technology and the Foundation for the Development of Science and Tech. What in terms of the financing and funding of R&D, do you have any suggestions on how we can better support R&D? And, coming from the SRC, I always said to the ministry, funding SRC and the Bodles, that is not financing R&D. I'm sorry, it's not. Funding R&D, what any recommendations, suggestions you have in terms of how we can look at it, whether it be private sector, public sector, or so forth, and not relying on EU money alone?
Well, I think one of the real potentials is if we can get the scientific community more involved. And one way, maybe this should have really taken place at the university, so that a significantly wider representation of scientists were present. And I just think something needs to be done to bring the two parties together. And it has been done in Israel, very successful. So we pray that it might be able to be done here.
Lovely, thanks much. And I think this will be our last question. The question regarding the steps of conducting research. I think you can check back on the YouTube channel, you'll see Dr. Gordon's presentation that outlines what those 3 steps are. Just a wrap-up question, a little clear. I don't think you'll escape that easily in terms of IP. We find, coming from the academic space, that there are lots and lots and lots of patents. And I know Prof. Mac may have a couple, Shara has a couple, Dr. Gardner has a couple, quite a number of patents we have in our universities, but no commercialization. We're not seeing them being applied for those solutions to come to market. Any suggestions from Intellectual Property Office to try and get some of our scientists to really move into applied space based on that knowledge and creativity that they have protected?
Okay, it comes back to, again, your area of strength. So you have solved the problem, but we don't expect you to go out there and find somebody who needs the solution to that problem. So, for example, Prof. McLaughlin comes up, you solve cancer, right? I don't expect Prof to go and find somebody who he can license this to. That's not his role and function. And I think what we don't understand or what we're not utilizing properly is all of the different layers. So everybody has a role. So it's a specialized person who will find out how you can license the solution to the problem you have come up with. And after you have found the solution to that problem and you said, okay, I'm going to license it to the white table. And these are the terms of the agreement. You get somebody who knows how to draft that agreement so that you continue to benefit. So, and it would come back also into funding. When you utilize, you say to them, fine, for every tablet that you sell, you have, and you don't do it based on the profit, okay? So for every tablet that you sell, I must get 1 cent. Right? So it doesn't matter, because then if you do it the other way, they'll never make a profit. Right? So, but it's the nuance in, if we use the analogy in sport, right? So Usain Bolt, he ran very well, okay? But he needed somebody to deal with the business side of his endeavor so that now that he stopped running, he can still earn from what he did. So it's the licensing of the solution to the problem and the marketing of it. All of that needs to be done.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, really clear.
And I just have to say one, if you've gotten nothing from these presentations, I just want you, before you start to do your research, just search to see if the problem you're solving has already been solved, okay? Because you may have a solution to a problem that has already been solved and you're not aware, but you can modify and make it better. And so you need to just learn how to search. And if you come to JICA, we can teach you how to search, or if you send us an email, we'll show you how to search, because that is critical.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your attention. Can we please give our panelists again a round of applause? Dr. Levy, Prof. Mark, Lily Claire Bellamy, and Dr. Gordon. Once again, thank you so much. Check on the virtual platforms again for the presentations that were delivered, as well as the evaluation for the different conference sessions. Again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Dr. Watson, fantastic conference.
Thank you. Don't move. We're going to invite the panelists for a quick photo op. And come on, guys. We have to clear this, we don't have to clear the room, but we have to get the stage moved next door. So we will still have this space. So there were some questions that came in. You can engage the panelists to have those questions answered. We do have refreshments provided back in the back. We also have amazing entertainment that you don't want to miss. And we'll be having that happening right in this space. But don't mind what is happening in the back, because we're going to be moving the stage. Is that good? All right. So we want to, again, thank the panelists for an amazing presentation. I'm coming up to be a part of the group photo too, you know. And I know I like pictures. Also will be giving the closing remarks as well as vote of thanks. So let me just get in the picture and come back. At this time, I'm gonna do the vote of thanks. So I want to first and foremost thank the participant in the last session of the conference. Thank you so much for a very engaging and insightful conversation on using science and technology and innovation at the core of your business for success and resilience. We also want to thank you, our audience, here at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, and those of you who have been joining online since Tuesday morning, thank you so very much. The SRC hosts this conference as a means to share and popularize science and technology as valuable tools to drive development for resilience. So I want to thank you for being with us. We also want to thank the Ministry of Science, Energy, and Technology. Someone asked, when will we have a whole Ministry for Science? So we saw the question, and I gave it to the Principal Director in the ministry. So she will be providing an answer sooner than later. I also want to thank the NCST and iSense. They have been partnering with us and been supporting us. We are the three main government institutions with responsibility for science and technology. I also want to thank all our chairpersons over the 2.5 days. And of course, our presenters and panelists. We want to thank our sponsors. This event was powered by Flow. We want to thank Jamaica Boilers and the Best Dressed Chicken. We want to thank Guardian Life Group, CariMed Group, the sponsors of this morning's session, First Global Bank, and of course, Lasco and Honeybun. Thank you so much for your support. Events like these cannot happen without your support. And we hope those of you who did not get the opportunity to sponsor and support us, don't worry, we'll be calling on you soon, very soon. To our exhibitors, we had an amazing exhibition hall. Our minister was here on Tuesday. He was under the weather, but he walked the entire exhibition and even double back. He was extremely impressed. Everyone that came through were extremely impressed to see how diverse the result, the output of science and technology, what it really is. It's not lab coat, it's not just like a molecule, it's not something far-fetched. It's the bar soap in your hand, it's the jerk season that you have, it's the ketchup in your cupboard for 6 months, even though you use it and it's still good. It is your bottled beverages, it's the perfume, it's the food we're about to eat. All of that is science and technology. It's the COVID vaccine. It is the means to enhance the quality of our life. I want to thank, oh my goodness, the board, the management, and the staff of the Scientific Research Council. Can I just have the SRC team up here with me, please? SRC team, please come on up. Come on up, guys, before the stage disappears so we can get a nice, pretty, I don't know my love picture, I don't know the ED already. So we can get a nice photographic memory of the moment. We want to invite our board members as well, Dr. Gardner, Dr. Gordon, Prof. Mac, Lily Claire, and our former executive director, Dr. Riley never said it this morning, you know. But the SRC owes a lot to Dr. Riley. He was a phenomenal leader and he continues to be a phenomenal support system to the institution. And we just want to say thank you, SRC. Come in, Dr. Gardner, come. You know, say a shot. We just want to say thank you to the SRC team, the executive director's office, Carolyn. Where's Carolyn? And she don't like picture, you know. Oh. No. Carolyn Ferguson, Andrea, big up on yourself, and Debian Kennedy, ensuring that we have nice gifts to give our panelists and presenters. Thank you for coordinating and organizing that. Our marketing team, our Information Services Division, the main coordinators of this conference, our IT team, want to take the meaning little but Talawa to our next level, working well under pressure. Event went without itch, even though we have card burning, all kind of things happening in the background, but you couldn't tell, could you? Thank you for holding it down, maintaining composure. Come in, Mr. Graham, can you know say you're short too? Our properties team who were here up to 3 a.m. Tuesday morning, getting the place arranged. Our finance and accounts team for paying for all of this and ensuring all the checks are ticked and signed. Our technical teams from the Product Research and Development Division, from our Processing Division, our Analytical Services team, the Natural Products team, the Food Technology team, the Food Pilot Plant, the Wastewater team. I hope I don't miss out any other teams. The CCIC team, of course. Thank you so much to all of you. This has been amazing. I couldn't be any prouder. Not even when my firstborn walked, I did feel so proud. To the Axiom team is a part of the SRC now. To Christopher Henry and his team for sound and lighting. To what's Natalie and her team. What's the name of your company, Natalie? I need to say it because persons need to know.
Bold, intelligent, beautiful.
Amazing. Natalie was here Monday night when we could not come into the room until after Minister 12 and stayed, got the space ready. She was here late last night getting things moved over. She came Tuesday as well to, spruce it up. So every day we got a nice new set. Thank you so much. This is our first time, but not the last time working with you. Really appreciate it. And to our graphic artists from Keen Designs, thank you so much for all the lovely graphics. And our internal graphics team as well. To our entertainment, who I'm going to introduce in a moment, as well as the team, the prodigies yesterday. If you missed those two young ladies yesterday, you need to go back to YouTube and check it out. To our webpage developer, Mr. Tim Federline, thank you for an amazing job. You executed that website in just 4 days. To the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel for an amazing service and banqueting facilities. To our photographer, Andrew
Thomas.
Mr. Andrew Thomas from Pure Photography. To Nationwide Radio and Mr. Cliff Hughes, who guided our panel discussion. To the RJR Communication Group. And of course, to God, for ensuring that we had a clean and good conference. Thank you all. Guys, refreshments are open. You can still mix and mingle, engage. We're going to move the stage right away. All right. Oh, wait. I'm going to introduce the entertainment in just a moment. We're going to pose for a picture. Mrs. Smith, come, please. You know you're very much a part of the SRC. All right, at this time, while we do some rearrangement, we invite you to grab a seat while we listen to violinist Jovani Williams. Jovani started playing the violin at age 13, late by conventional musical standards. 6 months thereafter, he captured 3 trophies at Jamaica's premier performing arts festival and 4 trophies the following year. Under the tutelage of Stephen Woodham, OD, Paulette Bellamy, OD, Dr. Lisa Walker, Jovani has racked up acclaimed for his stage performances and academics. Setting his first performance exam in grade 7, he earned the highest distinction awarded in Jamaica from the Associated Board of Royal Schools of Music. Jovani continued his distinction path in grade 8 and was awarded an award from Trinity College London in violin performance. a two-time scholarship recipient, as well as a member of the Youth Orchestra of the Americas in 2016. Jovani holds a bachelor degree in viola performance from the Lynn University Conservatory of Music, Florida, where he studied under Ralph Phelan. Ladies and gentlemen, Jovani Williams for us all. Jovani, take it away.